Hello and welcome to the Glow Movement Podcast. My name is Sloan Reid, and before we dive into today's episode, I just want to take a moment to say thank you to Past Sloan for her thought process behind her idea that it would be great if we recorded the Pageant Hangover episode while having a pageant hangover, and not just having a pageant hangover, being within the first 6 to 12 hours of that pageant hangover. Good thinking, Sloan. Way to show up raw and for your future self, who your present self's very thankful for. But we're here, we're raw, we're present, and we're embracing this in the best way. I'm probably breaking all my tips that I'm about to give you, but we're going to roll with it, and hopefully we can transition and I can fix this hangover quicker based on these tips. So with that, what is a pageant hangover? Why am I experiencing it? And why is it so hard, right? Let's break it down. So a pageant hangover is, I know the hangover part always throws people off. They're like, what do girls do at these pageants? No substances involved. Okay. So first and foremost, we are substance free. Maybe hairspray. We've inhaled a lot of hairspray the last 3 days, maybe a week. But no substances are involved. A pageant hangover is just after attending like 3 extensive days of, like, think of being at a networking event or a happy hour where you go to like for work for like 2 hours, or an event, like a big thing that's like a big ball or like gala for like 2, 3, 4 hours. Imagine, and then like coming home and how exhausted you are. Imagine doing that for 3 days to a week nonstop, and you have early makeup time, so you're usually in the makeup chair anywhere from like 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. if you're lucky. 6 a.m. is like the prime spot, and you're going to like 11, 12 o'clock at night, sometimes later, and you're back in the makeup chair the next day, and it's like constant, and the whole days you're running around in like 6-inch heels if you're your girl, and lots of outfit changes and events and rehearsals, and those rehearsals are walking and dancing and all the things, and of course you're connecting with all of the other contestants and the staff, and then you have all the things, right? There's judges, and then of course the actual performance of the show and all the events that are within the pageant, depending on your system, and then crowning, and then it's just done. And that doesn't even include the weeks to months to years of prep that went into this pageant, right? And so what is a pageant hangover is when all of that comes to an abrupt wall. It literally, like, we have built this momentum up where we have been going at high speed for so long that peaks during the pageant window, right? Whether it's a week or a weekend. So in my case, for this most recent one, it's a weekend. So that's what we're going to refer to for this episode. So you have prepared for this. You have led up to this for months of full speed ahead, going as fast as you can, constantly working, putting in the effort on a physical level, emotional level, mental level, like you are doing the work. And all of a sudden, like, it's at peak during pageant week. Like, everything that you've worked so hard for is showing up, or didn't work so hard for, is showing up in that peak window of pageant weekend. And then it's just done. Hit brick wall. Right? And it's back to reality. And it's a very jarring feeling. It doesn't matter if you are a contestant. It doesn't matter if you didn't get the outcome you want, if you did get the outcome you want, because like there's different flavors of passion hangover for sure, but it's definitely, it hits us all, regardless of outcome. It'll hit you hard. So I always get the question, is like the pageant hangover real? But especially if you've never done a pageant before, like you hear pageant hangover and you're like, these girls are crazy, right? What are they talking about? Like, they're cuckoo. And I remember my best friend Sweden, the former Mrs. Tennessee America. That's the first time I said that. And my best friend, but she we were at nationals, and it was like the day after we were wrapping, and she came by my room to get something, and she was with her husband, and I looked at her husband. I said, you need to protect her. Like, she's gonna have a pageant hangover, and you need to give her space to do that. Like, make sure she rests, make sure she recovers. Like, I already know her. Like, she's gonna want to get back home and get back into the routine, and like make sure the kids are the priority, and like to handle all the things she does. And she's just a superwoman, and she needs time. And she admitted to me later that her and her husband were like walking away from my room, and she goes, that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, pageant hangover. And she admitted to me, she goes, wow, did it hit me hard? Like, Oh, and because she tried to resist it, she feels it hit her so much harder because she didn't give herself the time to just understand that it's needed and that recovery period is vital to make sure that it's short, that window is shortened, the pageant hangover window is shortened. So why is it so hard? So why are the pageant hangovers so, well, it's physically draining. Like, you are physically exhausted. And I'm not just talking from exhaustion, like you have reached a whole new level of fatigue because of a lack of sleep. And it's so weird because even if you don't have early makeup calls or late nights, you just don't sleep pageant. You're in a hotel, you're in different rooms, like the excitement, the adrenaline of it all, like it's just hard, like, to get a good night's sleep. I haven't slept in 3 days and I'm not even competing. Like, it's just the adrenaline of it all. Like, it's you're not sleeping, so you're running on fumes. Then you're literally in heels for all day, like nonstop heels. And so your feet are sore, your ankles are sore, your legs are sore, your back sore, like that takes its toll. You're on your feet, walking, practicing, running all over, going to events, like depending on what the agenda is, like you're going nonstop. So not only are you not sleeping for a physical drain, but you're physically, like literally running yourself constantly. So your just body is worn out. And then you're pouring your heart, like you're showing up vulnerably in every phase of competition, from walking into orientation and meeting all the other contestants and meeting the staff and meeting the team and meeting the former queens. Like, you are showing up vulnerably and presenting yourself and hopefully the best version of yourself non-stop throughout the entire experience. And we're all very passionate women. We all have a big why of why we're there, and it's driving us and it's pushing us because we are signing up to be vulnerable. So we all have to have that big why to push us through those insecurities and those moments of doubt. And so because we're so invested emotionally into our why, a lot has to come out of us, and then we're emotionally drained, and then that we're mentally drained. I mean, all of that adds up, and you almost feel like in a state of, like, I wrote this past weekend on last night. Oh my God, that was just last night. This is Pageant Hangover. Mentally drained. You lose track of time and can't believe that wasn't a week ago. Like, it was literally last night. My mom and a couple of us went to dinner, and my mom and I were back in her hotel room because, yes, I'm in my early 30s and my mom's a rock star and still came to watch me give up my crown. Drove 6 hours each way just to watch because she's amazing. But she was in her hotel room and we were both in it, and we were like deliriously laughing. I picked up her glasses by accident, and I was like, oh my God, these are like beer goggles. Like, this is awful. And we thought that was the funniest thing. It's not that funny, y'all. Like, in the light of day, like, we're like, that's not that funny, but it was hilarious. That's just the mental fatigue you're at. And that doesn't even include, like, the unique events that went in, because with so much going on and so many contestants and so many events and so many moving parts, something's gonna trip, right? Either whether like a makeup artist is late, or a schedule, or an outfit breaks, or a girl's sensitive or says something, or like, it's just, and like pageants, like, let me really stress, because I want to be careful with that, like, disclaimer, like, pageant girls are amazing, like absolutely fantastic, and the stereotype that it's like a really catty environment, I would say 90% is untrue. I have met my best friends in pageantry and have had the most fun at pageants and connecting with other phenomenal women. But when you're reaching this point of the pageant hangover, the simplest remark can send you down a spiral. Like, it can be as simple as like, oh, so your dress is blue? And it's like, bleh, like your brain takes you to dark places when you were just this emotional, when your tank is on this low. And so that's why it's so hard. And then I want to honor the new queens before I go to the, like, what it was obvious of who gets hit by the pageant hangover the hardest. But new queens do. They are now walking into prepping for the next phase, whether it's that year of being a title holder and what they want that year, and that pressure of continuing the legacy of past queens. But for a lot of them, they're preparing for the next phase of competition, which for our queens this past weekend is nationals, and it's right around the corner. So they literally have very little time to recover. So they have to be really intentional with it to make sure that they hit the ground running and are prepared for the next one, and the next opportunity. And then, of course, the girls that didn't get the outcome they desired, like, it has its own sense of heaviness and disappointment, and it's very, very heavy. And I think a lot of girls don't have these tips in their back pocket, and so they try to ignore it, or they try to suppress it, or they get stuck in it, and neither of which is healthy. So how do I recover from a pageant hangover? The first one is acknowledge that it's necessary, and that's probably the hardest for me, because as I've shared in previous episodes, I have a guilty habit of associating rest with being lazy, and that is not true. So you have to pause and almost put your life on pause as much as possible. Like, I don't schedule appointments. I don't meet with clients these first couple days. I allow my body to just pause and heal and recover. I didn't have a single appointment today. I have very few tomorrow. They're light check-in calls. Like, I make sure I am protective, other than this podcast recording, of myself the days after a pageant. And then I allow that time for rest and recovery. I allow that time to heal on a physical level, emotional level, and a mental level. But obviously, the quickest one for me to heal is my physical. I soak my feet. I take the bath. I get to schedule the massage, right? I book the facial. I just take that time to really, really physically heal the exterior me, so I have the energy and the ability to start really doing the deep work of emotional and mental healing, which is a lot of rest and sleep. So you're doing that hand in hand as well. But I think a big part of it is when you allow yourself the time to rest and recover, you start to be able to gain a new perspective. But the best way to amplify that and expedite that is through gratitude. Gratitude is the ultimate way to challenge all of those imposter feelings. If you're feeling like an imposter, if you're feeling disappointed, if you're feeling sad, if you're feeling heartbroken, it is impossible to feel any of those emotions when you're practicing gratitude. And that can be difficult post-pageant. Like, you're exhausted and you're disappointed and you're feeling all those things. Gratitude is the last thing on your mind. But I promise you, if you trust me and you build the momentum of gratitude, of even being thankful for the small things. Like, I'm really thankful a nail didn't break. Start there. I'm really, really thankful my tan lasted. I'm really, really thankful that I got to wear the dress I wanted. I'm really, really thankful that my shoes were comfortable for as long as possible, or they didn't break and I didn't have to find a backup. I'm really, really thankful for my makeup artist and making me feel beautiful. I'm really, really thankful for my sisters and the way that we all showed up for each other. You just start to build this momentum of gratitude, and it's impossible to feel those other emotions when you're in that spirit. So that's the ultimate way to heal yourself from a mental and emotional place. And then, of course, that exudes outward. It's all this beautiful cycle of healing. So that'll help you heal physically as well. This is really important. You don't get to jump to this step. This is what everyone wants to do. They jump to this step, and it's so detrimental. It's like making the hangover worse. It's like literally as you were leaving the bar, you decided to take 8 more shots, right? That is what you're doing to the pageant hangover by jumping to this. It's like you already know you're going to be hungover, and you're like, you know what? Well, sounds like a good idea. Let's finish all of the whatever, right? All the, you can tell I haven't had alcohol in a very long time. So it's whatever, right? You just make it worse. And that's what people want to do by jumping to this step. And it's the reflection step. You are not allowed to reflect until you give yourself time, you pause, you rest, you recover, you practice gratitude, and then you're allowed to reflect. I'm really, really impressed with a girl who was a contestant in the pageant, and she booked in advance a self-awareness appointment with me, but she didn't book it until 4 days after the pageant. And I'm so proud of her, because initially I was like, oh, I wonder if she wants to do it sooner. But no, she's already self-aware enough to know that she wants this time. She wants the time to pause, to reflect, to rest and recover, and then she'll have those self-awareness reflection, rest, recover, pause, time, gratitude. And then she'll have the reflection appointment with me on Thursday. And I just thought I was so proud of her when I put that together. So way to go, you. And then, of course, in that reflection state is we're solution driven. We're not shame driven. I think when we're in that reflection state, we're thinking, okay, I really like that I did that. How do I better up? How do I get to the next level of that? I really, really loved this. I want to make sure that I get more of that, or I really lean into those resources that help me get that. If, I really struggled in this area, what resources do I have, or what do I need to do to feel more confident in that area? I didn't like the way I was feeling in this moment. What do I need to heal in order to not feel that as intensely? So that's the intention behind the reflection phase. And then we move forward. We don't get stuck. We say, what's next? What's our next opportunity? Where are we applying this energy? Because so much energy goes into a pageant. So much of us goes into a pageant, and that can be used it doesn't have to be another pageant. If it is another pageant, that's so exciting and I'm happy for you. But if it's not, that's amazing too. Maybe it's starting a business. Maybe it's building a nonprofit. Maybe it's taking a new leadership opportunity. Maybe it's investing that into your career or a podcast, right? Whatever that is, that's amazing, and move forward with it. Channel that energy into something new for you that's in the future, and it's a new goal for you. And of course, in all of this, celebrate you. And that is the most important. If you didn't listen to a thing I said, that breaks my heart. No, I'm just kidding. But if this is the only thing that you hold on to, it'll be worth it to me that I struggled through this episode with so much love and grace, of course, is that it's so important to know whether you won the title or you lost the title, neither defines you. It doesn't make you any more special. It doesn't make you any more valuable. It doesn't make you any worthy. The title and the crown mean nothing to your worth. You bring value to that crown. You define what your reign and what that title means. No one else. It does not. Who you are when you walked in is hopefully a better version of yourself when you're walking out. But the crown does not make that happen. You make that happen through your growth through this experience. And so if you just happen to have a shiny hat and a ribbon, oh gosh, I hate when they call sausage ribbons, across your chest, good for you. You're adding value to it. One of the queens asked me again, and I've been asked this several times in the last couple of months, of what is the best pageant advice or best advice I have for new contestants or competing contestants. And I always say it is so important to know that the crown fits you. You do not have to fit the crown, meaning you don't have to live up to other queens and how they wore it. You don't have to wear the crown I wore it. That's how I wanted to wear the crown. Sweden wore the crown very differently than me, and it was still beautiful and empowering and impactful. The queens before me wore it very, very different, and it was still so, so purposeful and beautiful, but it was very, very different crowns. Same crown, different girl in it. So that's so important to know. And so because of that, the crown does not make you more valuable. You were already that valuable. It does not make you any more worthy. You were already that worthy. If anything, you are adding value to that title and to that crown. So don't allow the outcome to define you either way, because you are so much more worthy than a pretty ribbon and a sparkly hat ever can be. So with that, happy healing. Get some rest, recover, maybe treat yourself. And if you need any help in this process, you know where to find me. So much love, and I hope y'all have an amazing week. Bye, y'all.